I hope that your week is off to a good start. The weekly video for this week focuses on character analysis. If you've looked ahead on the class plan, your character analysis assignment is due on Thursday, 10/19. So we're going to use our time today to focus on what character analysis is and what you need to do to complete this assignment and do well. First things first, what is character analysis? Character analysis is when you look critically at a character and you evaluate their traits, their role in a story, and the conflicts that they experience. To write your character analysis, there are a few things you need to do. First and foremost, after you have chosen your character, is you need to thoroughly read the text. Even if you've read the story before, which you should have at this point, before you write your character analysis and as you're gathering notes for that, you need to reread that text. In fact, you might find that you have to read it 2 or 3 times. As you're reading, look closely at that character and examine all aspects of the character. Take notes as you're reading. Take note of what the character looks like and what they do throughout the story. More importantly than that, take a really close look at their role and purpose in the story. To do this, look closely at the character's traits. Who are they? Take a look at their dialogue. What does their dialogue show you about them? Take a look at their actions and their thoughts. Look how they interact with other characters in the story. Really evaluate their motives. What makes them do what they do. All of those things are going to help you analyze and kind of define that character. As you're going through this process, I want you to ask yourself these questions right here. How do the character's actions or decisions advance the plot? So what role do they play in the story? How do the character's actions, interactions, dialogue, and thoughts help express the theme of the work? And remember, theme is message. So how does that character help illustrate the theme for that story? And then lastly, how do changes in the character help the author express the work's meaning? So does your character change throughout the story? If so, how does that illustrate the meaning and the theme of the text? Or maybe your character doesn't change throughout the story, and how does that contribute to the meaning of the text? By answering all of those questions with evidence from the text, so direct quotes and examples, you'll be able to evaluate how the character impacts the story as a whole. When you're writing a character analysis, be careful that you don't write a summary. A short summary or a description of the character is not an analysis, and it will not earn you a very high grade on this assignment. So do not summarize. Make sure you're analyzing and you're really giving us meaning behind the character. Here's a couple examples for you to look at. This example way over here, it is an example of a description. You'll notice right off the bat that it is much smaller. So here is a really quick description for you. It says, Jody is a basketball player who has been fouled by her opponent. She's hurt and angry, but she doesn't show it. Instead, she sinks 2 free throws. That is her way of showing that she is better than her opponent. So this is a really nice summary. It tells us a little bit about the character and her actions, but it doesn't give us much insight into why she is who she is. So this would be an example of a really good description. Not an analysis though. What you need to write is an analysis. On this side over here is an example of an analysis. It says Jody's response to being knocked down by her basketball opponent advances the theme that unfairness is a weakness, not a strength. The opponent is a surly person who deliberately makes illegal contact, and Jody is understandably upset. But Jody's reply, although angry, is not insulting. She asks simply, "What was that about?" When the opponent responds rudely, "Stay out of my space," Jody is tempted to talk back in anger, but decides not to. This shows good sense and realism. She knows arguing on the court is not going to help her. Instead, she channels her anger constructively into sinking 2 free throws and shows up her opponent. This kind of maturity probably helps Jody off the court as well as on it. So in this response, the author really analyzes the character of Jody. She tells you what Jody says and does, and then she tells you what all of that means. For example, right here she says, "This shows good sense and realism." And then at the end, she also has this reflection where she says, "This kind of maturity probably helps Jody off the court as well as on it." So here, not only does the author talk about Jody's actions, but she analyzes them. She tells us what all of those actions and all of those things that she does and says mean. What do they show you about that character of Jody? So make sure as you're completing this that you're writing an analysis and not a description or summary. As you write your analysis, you will be asked to choose a work of fiction that you've read recently in this course. By that, you have to choose something that we've read in English 208. So I don't want you to choose a movie that you've seen or a book that you read last year or even a book that you're reading right now on your own. You must choose a character from one of the texts that we've read in class. So either from Unit 1 or from Unit 2. Review the story like I said earlier and any notes you took about it, especially notes you took about characters. Then you're going to choose one important character about whom to write an analysis. So choose one character from the story to write about. To prepare to write it, make sure you answer the questions about the character that were provided in the notebook activity in Lesson 9.02. If you're not sure where to start and you can't remember the different characters that we've come across, you can use this chart that we've created right here for you. I have listed the 4 stories that we read this unit, and then the characters that would be the easiest to write an analysis on. These are the characters that we know the most about from these different stories. So for example, in Everything Must Converge, we know a lot about Julian and Julian's mother. In The Bet, it talks a lot about the banker and the lawyer. So if you're going to choose a character from stories from Unit 2, I would stick to these characters that are listed right over here. You can go back to Unit 1 if you'd prefer and choose one of those characters as well. It's completely up to you. For this analysis, you need to write 2 paragraphs. You want to make sure that you keep the story and the notes in front of you as you're writing to kind of remind you of the points you want to make. Make sure that in your analysis you describe the character's traits, whether or not the character is the protagonist or the antagonist, or maybe the character is neither one. Make sure you include whether the character is complex or flat, whether the character changes, and if so, how. And then make sure you're citing details to support your analysis on all sides. So make sure that you include direct quotes and examples from the story for everything that you say about the character. You want to make sure that you have a lot of support and examples. In addition, don't forget to state the story's title in your analysis, the author's name, and the name of the character if it's available. In a couple of our stories, they don't give you the name of the character. They just kind of refer to it by title, like the banker or the lawyer. To start, make sure you complete the questions in the workbook activity. Those questions really will help you write the best analysis that you can. So don't skip that step. Here's the nitty-gritty. Make sure that you're typing in Times New Roman or Arial font. Make sure it's size 12. Don't change it to size 24 and think that you're going to fool me. Make sure it's size 12, and make sure you double space it as well. If you have trouble setting up your paper, make sure you ask into Class Connect or send off an email to your teacher and we can help you out. Make sure that you also include a title with your character's name in it. So your character's name should be the title of your analysis. I've compiled a grading checklist for you. When we are grading your character analysis, we are going to use a rubric. So you want to make sure you check out the rubric in the online lesson. But the rubric contains all of these different things. So when you're writing, make sure that you have at least 2 full paragraphs with adequate details and support. Make sure that you identify and explore 2 to 3 of the character's main traits. Again, support the analysis with evidence. Make sure that you use evidence from the text to explain whether the character was an antagonist or a protagonist, or if you feel like the character was neither one, explain that as well. Make sure that you hit on whether or not that character was flat or round and that you use evidence to back that up. Make sure you pay close attention to details. Double check your spelling, use spell check, double check your grammar. You will be graded on GUM, which is grammar usage and mechanics. So make sure that you double check things and that everything is clean and looks good and that you're saying exactly what you want to say. And then make sure that your analysis really explains the changes that the character went through. So if your character changed throughout the text, explain that. If they stayed exactly the same, explain that as well, and explain what that does for the story and how it contributes to the story. Okay, that pretty much sums up this assignment and the process that you need to go through. Lastly, I just want to remind you that if you are stuck, reach out right away. Your teachers want to help you, so shoot off an email or give us a call. We're definitely here to help. The other part is make sure you're attending Class Connects, because we're going to work on this in Class Connect. So you want to make sure that you're there. Okay, we're looking forward to seeing your character analysis.